proper for with Cormac humans are the most brutalish, also fiendish, also at current probably one of the most dangerous. Are the mosquitoes namely remotely dangerous? Are currently towards the while they already got this planet, they hijack others, they condition others. What are our guys supposed to be doing? We already wrote the essays or recent or given lots of the reports. We gotta ditch away even the Bible, guys. What is it? Probably a nicer cultist called come to the black man perspective. Notice we're just sort of starfishes, we're Patricks, we're SpongeBobs. What will SpongeBob do? Friends with others, recruit armies, get mercenaries, get it solved. Get the problem solved, then continue to sort of go around it. Don't be a wuss. Notice the word even by terrorists are preemptively overusing of to such extent that by the time or by the occasion of mentioning the word was, then the memory allocation goes to along also the master examples. How the thieves are today in modern society allow the word for these soft kill thugs doesn't stand towards business. You need to pay more. It starts to regulate. It's pretty about greetings. How are you now? Please sit down. And we're going to start negotiating. Start going to flame, opens the flower up, then dips the poison in. It's usually there's nice also then some insulin toxic fakeness while others don't have the reflex for it and starts getting stabbed by that. There are probably also a bit of element of this trust them. Probably a bit of loan of trust. Reason there for Papua or reason there for Papua or of reason there or for also reason there for Papua. Those much of way viciousness that utilizes other person's kindness to such a horrific extent that's definitely going to cause certain major issues to them. Of a reason of not of reason there for soon to be for comfortable for another reason there for soon to be comfortable for another reason there for vicious extent is the amount of reason of vicious of so many issues out there. Persons aren't doing much to solve them. What is it supposed to be when the reason for the Masamanadasi's conditions our guys changes their mood, combos with the school systems? The humans are the most dangerous to themselves also. They should, probably, besides the National Social reason, then also the National Socialists. Suppose some humans had a responsibility, they will pick up a gun from the left side, pick it up, and terminate themselves. They don't have to be around. The planet goes better, everyone lives better, the societies get better with the quote-mark humans. They are criminal gangs, they're dysfunction, they're factory-churn machines, they analyze, they overthink. There are some of these intellectual monstrosities also. The reason for reasons of what out there. There's some sort of cramiest, self-centered. If they're not even members of, what are these soloists? So many amount of these soloists out there. What are they thinking? Are they lost? How is it that they reach to the 7 billion numbers that are more number than vermin? So they're not sort of number-based. This has been a tremendous clone war against our guys. The word race probably represents to race against us, with this fictional story and that whole set of stuff. That doesn't sort of needs to be expressed or written in literal format of if they, as long as they operate as logic, then they will be in front of this. At the same time, probably lots of the humans are embedded with so much disappointment. If they want to leave, quicken your leave. Don't stay around and share with others. You're not so important. Not only are almost defaultly any creatures or any persons are others. The Nazis did not even build this place, are not Bill Gates' friends. How is that they operate this way? They're at minimum lunatics. They're idiotic, they're crazy, they're fanatics, they're mentai. Check out how many they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or already 10 on this page. At least 10 on this page. You reach the Papa there. 11 about, or Papa reason there, for Papa first of all, Papa reason there, for Papa also 12, Papa reason there, for Papa first of all, Papa 12. a irresponsible human, they will pick up a pistol or go to a rifle range and start terminating themselves. That's a responsible thing to do. Until to the last chip. Lack of common senses, disobedience, self-centered, soloists, aware at a society, imposed as it exists. They're freaks. Who does this? There's a reason particular, then they cherish it as success, or they did it. That's a mental criminal. What are those even operating much a reason to fuck? Because others will expect you to not be a criminal, or a reason to fuck expect them to not be a criminal. Also, probable content also combined with a reason for also. The other guys doesn't. Their niceness becomes, or probably kindness becomes, therefore their weakness, their strength therefore becomes something to be jealous about. They don't have reason. They're simply haters. The haters doesn't respect anyone. They hate to hate. When we counter them, it becomes therefore we're sort of doing the same thing. It might be similar enough tasks, but the purposes are different. Different orientation, different approaches. If the Nazis keep insisting, oh, that's also hater, then they're going to be. That's asking. That's a proper provocation, also a taunt of reason for popular from Nazis. The stronger replaces the weak. That's a proper attitude to have. When that announcement is mentioned, it's not therefore it's going to be killed or it's going to be replaced, but simply having an attitude to possibly counter towards the inactive aggressors. To have reason that after since at passive Middle Ages, the stuff became more of a muskets or probably rifles, while the absence of this male masculinity at combat use or daily use. Recent people at social proper society, then there needs to be sort of improvised towards that sort of absence of force to balance their proper generate more fairness there for proper balance there. But instead it's not. Equality represents hideousness. It's not so. When persons are friendly with each other, they value the other almost as more better than they are, for reason of more above than they are. Sort of a mutual relation there. While equality, this passive aggressive, these are manufactured machines that analyze way more than our guys. No principles. Dramatism starts to change the identifier. It does it in this. Usually are combos findable for popular combos of both reasonable popular more resemble to our guys in this with the strangerism shuffle. Notice how nasty and also fiendish they are. It should be more for crowd here, reasonable popular with some certain audience cheering or popular. So mainly for sort of the vibe or probably the atmosphere difference, they shouldn't be operated to this level where our guys don't have any night association. When knights don't have association, there's no knights. Knights need these associations or reasonable popular groups for popular considered of the word guild of a reasonable popular, another of these associations of popular also groups of what is consumers as a mass doesn't meet these groups. So suppose there's being an equality trade-off. If everyone or probably the citizens doesn't have much of association, the knights, their opponents, get reduced. These are deadly freaks. These are killer Hitlers that kill in different ways and different types of Hitlers. For the reason that they're for pop also. Usually our mentions are very right now because there's process. They're taken on reason for their process. Almost 90% of the processes are spent on evaluating on their threats. They already shredded harmony and peace. They knife towards harmony, also peace of the society. Notice when persons don't trust one another, you cannot trust them for one another. It will be too much of attack. The consequences to be righteous at this country is outweighed. It's almost at the elimination. We're at the elimination stage. That's why the girls doesn't want to date a lot of the decent person because you don't even rule here, man. Get a fucking rifle and start the mass shootings to rescue from this planet for the numerous country, also the numerous reasonable people, also the regular persons of reasonable people for the Deutsche State and for the Deutsche Volks. You really have to do this. When there's a homeless, do not attempt once to stand firmly in front of the homeless and shake him with a Deutschland salute higher. Because tomorrow will belong to the persons that believe that they can. And also, don't be a puppet of there are extensive amount of modernist puppets also. So it's not just a reason for Fafo, also reason for Fafo is not just Nazis when combated against also modernist puppets. Reason there are probably namely of performance of Fafo, reason there of Fafo, namely of reason there of Fafo, or namely of performance of Fafo Beta Betrayed support to of recent there couple mentions sets of reason there of a couple mentions reason of Fafo also reason of a couple mentions contribute of minor literalization of Nazis don't care about us. This society has gotten compassionless first. While it spreads negativity, are masked criminals that dramatize, purposely doesn't wield knife or try to stab someone directly, so it resorts to the other stabs that are currently available. Once that runs out, then it starts picking up the knives. It currently also picks up the knives. Knives are their invention. Suppose our guys started holding a knife on the streets for street patrol. Therefore, there's comes some deep consequence. Despite they built a society, where's the absence of respect from all of these cops? Elected peasants are Nazis. They're not even peasants. It's gotten to the level our guys being conditioned in prison at the jails named as schools, to the level that or also forgot, or reason of Fafo not allowed to notice, a reason of Fafo doesn't notice what a peasant is. Reason of Fafo what peasants are of. There aren't mediocre people reason of Fafo also is reason of Fafo was marked people. Those are vile criminals, dramatists that pretend as weaker. Reason of Fafo dramatists. They all dramatize weaker despite the person's hijack enough to the extent with its compliances, regulations posted from the federal government, while the federal government has no choice. They're constantly harassed by these hideous freaks that combos with their identical Nazi divisions with their reason of Fafo. It's the journalist articles about it's a protest. It's not a protest, it's a harassment. These parades are celebrating the victory over the sports for once. Notice how hideous and reason of Fafo also suspicious they are poor at sports. Suppose a creature type, then that's another type. In that case of genetic, there's also Fafo into responsibility in the reason there of Fafo cultural reason there of Fafo also not to coincide with other instances of the mentioned responsibilities of Fafo also reason there of or of reason of Fafo or of the Darwin writing about leave it blank, don't write. At this current situation, there has been other descriptions towards Darwin of also among the consumers that currently rule the planet. Reason of Fafo rules the governments, while lots of the government officials or probably also those high position holders or Fafo personnel with those high positions, reason of Fafo or personnel or reason of Fafo or government official position holders of reason of Fafo also of recent therefore Fafo or reason of Fafo after reason of Fafo another of reason of Fafo or those personnel, so Fafo personnel with government official positions of lots of them they're high salary servant, reason of Fafo servicemen. To bear out of this giant constraints of probably this much of a vicious surrounding reason of Fafo engulfment from the mass amount of Nazis, there's reason of Fafo suitable to address of Fafo. There are also feminazis to combat against. Do not trust any of the Jewish females. These conditional guys set up these receptionist relays that are similar a passive aggressive fortress, not a house. They purposely it's sort of their dance. This is the human insect, human version of the insect spider's den. Should it be fought against also? Yes. Reason the probable considerable minoritization of the Jewish females are destructive as the others, though those ones sort of probably already identified as the other ones that has been. That's probably more of a master since it got in the way of it. Notice in the recent of or probable war, notice in the sort of grudge or hostility towards Muslims, also blacks, come for a reason of efforts, for reasons there for efforts, for reasons of for blacks, also Muslims, from the Jewish females, comes from because they're less sterilized or less feminatized than the counterpart groups, or probably lots of the other groups. Reason there for Papua, also another for reason of Papua, the lots of the other groups. Just because we perform, or Papua guys, therefore it becomes something, they are unstoppable. They probably rule the planet. Our guys rule the planet. They rule to the extent that they could mark as which ones rule the planet. Mathematical dramatists are why was the system set to a length to that it at least requires some sort of similarity to them. Me, I'm not sort of a lion typing on a keyboard right here. So there's still remainders, or probably a lot of this restraint still. There will probably always be some of, but at current, probably considerable of a lot of. The Nazis are there to help. They will blockade. They will act as hypocrites. This 7 billion needs to be depopulated ASAP. Countries should join together to depopulate them. The level has been horrendous. Should we start to visit these slaughterhouses, or how they treat these living persons at their animation malls? On that account, therefore, they treat probably humans better. Then in the case of humans, it doesn't simply state in this way. It starts attacking Trump, ridicule Trump, that's equivalent to reasonable death mark to Trump or anyone that later rebels. While it doesn't state in how much it's spasm hostile towards Putin. Are they playing sort of last resort roulette of a proper to a reasonable of a major factor? Then they are going to be counted. Hideous, ugly persons present themselves, mass criminals, rampant sprouting out, while our guys are over-disciplined, or reasonable for this. The remainder, reasonable people, the decent persons of this generation are over-disciplined, taught how to behave as if there are no enemies out there. It's gotten to a vicious level towards the sort of the inverse affecting reason for reasons where it takes place of. Probably a mission impossible. Notice where does it state about degens? It conditions to the person to the similar status quo, which is to be calmed down, to speak slowly, to find words. You have to find words. We already found the words. We have to mention all these mentions. We have to describe them how much in order to get to something. It's already being described. Even the recent instance of recent or probable couple of things, or probable considerable descriptive. Also a probably decent amount of descriptions of also condemns to them. The Nazis continue to quiz again. They're above. They're mighty. They're level 10. Probably also at their max. Also inflicting at their max level. So they're competitors, not friends. Reason of probable competitors. Reason of or probable. Reason they're probable or probable soon to be considerable for another reason of probable competitors stuff. We have lunatics humans out there. Dramatized, no honor, despite the amount of better treatment in a lot of our guys. Also the absence of penalties. They should be at the level way higher. How come this? Because they're vile. They're dishonest. Should these therefore be treated to the level that our guys receive? Those are more so for reasons more of cases of the extremism of groans, or probably also groans of then. Also probably moderate groans of though moderate groans probably are more extremists of ways of than the extremists of the world. For the reason for Papa also for they retain as Papa brand or Papa reason of Papa retain as moderate glorious. clone war being fought against us, anyone that's not sort of royal blood or someone who is Aryan are not humans. If there's argument on that, we'll bring our nuclear arsenals, an Aryan invention. We'll bring chemical weapons, Aryan inventions. We'll bring the drones, also Aryan inventions. Let them get a taste from the Trilateral Commission. Or probably the more active stance, more announced, then there's possible lots of mass economic locus version of their equilateral, also recent for Trilateral Commission of recent therefore also recent therefore porbable. Vicious assaults are ongoing. When it's to our guys, they were labeled as fascists to be executed. It wouldn't still, when they do stuff, it's always a bit googly woogly or a bit different. It's proper 3 or 4 steps, recent proper around 4 steps of the necessary proper also 3.5 steps recent of a proper or another for recent proper around 4 steps of recent of a proper or after recent of proper continues from around recent of proper or 4 steps of, then it will become then a direct stabbing. It sort of doesn't meet a further description, probably here in instance of probably certain description of the how it's multiple then as opposed to a or reason for probably a direct strike towards our guys. Our guys should not simply feign or denotate stuff like that. There's no one else to hear that. It's not sort of there's a godfather there. You are the godfather, so be the godfather. At the same time you could mention it or probably reasonable probably could mention it to certain persons. So the language itself being ruined, terrorists being torn as place apart, reasonable probable terrorists have spread numerous contaminants of also harmony and peace, reasonable probable harmony also peace at this place being knifed against by mass amount of these degenerates. Then these dress casual, wash off their blood, wash off their hatred, present themselves reasonable probable, then reasonable probable present reasonable probable also present themselves with enthusiastic smile to camera to a bunch of strangers that doesn't check its hobbies. Check on person's hobbies. Suppose it doesn't exhibit our guys, they're not our guys. It's gotten to a level of those can camouflage better both by match to the identities of or by identifiers, while restrict the amount of identifiers they are. So with the stuff being generic, persons from two persons cannot come from as if the same place. Reasonable couple with this public status quo, this modern reasonable couple, this modern nearly similar identifiers with only couple different styles to choose from for of the instance of apparels of recent of the instance of apparels of then it becomes like you. It's gotten to the level of vicious arrangement towards our guys, how they should be fighting, how they should intend, or how they should mention or present themselves are constantly evaluated. These are given regular reminders. There's physical assaults involved, there's strikes onto others involved. Where's the militaries to counter this? Where are the statesmen? The mass amount of peasants doesn't care. They're there for their global monopoly, reasonable probable for their consumptions. There's erratic spasm. These are emperors, not citizens. While there are billions of them, so then those are some sort of anti-disease. Reasonable probable at least would operate much resemble the disease. Recent they are for probable or Nazis. They're not for Hitler. They're against Hitler. Won't care for building of a society, because if a society built or any sort of livelihood or activism comes forward, their positions will be flawed. Also, they might also underperform, also oversteer themselves. So the reason they're probably considerable will change the subject of to reason probably of extremists or gorons. Reason they're probably kind of supplying to a recent mention before of a pirate of reason they're probably regarded as minor remark, reason for probably also reason for probably regarded as minor mention, reason probably regarded to as reason probable considerable of regard to as reason of probable or regarded of minor mention. The only lanes that are left to report on this degeneracy wouldn't the Zampists well be prepared, set it a reasonable proposal, reasonable for Nazis, set it to such a configuration that it will be striking or be inflictions, because they had already they also proper Nazis, and presumably lots of the persons has been sterilized, reasonable gone through this education program, they wouldn't be able to. So then there's probably additional performance points to be awarded, reasonable additional performance points to be awarded. But the Nazis also, reasonable also the Nazis wouldn't support the other, while Democrat freezes in ways as if care for the other. What is that hostility? The problems come from them. They're not there to fix the problems exactly due to their hideousness, continued acting as victims. They're not victims of almost anything. Of the cases of the Goran, they might be victims of something. The Nazis has been destructive to society, spreads negativity, drugs towards many of the politicians, purposely visits with all that preparedness to spread the stock. They don't care about this place, yet constantly stays around. Recently, they're probably regular verb words, also descriptions, probably quite providence of to us. It's as if our guys need to mention almost the entire set of, or probably a large set of, the descriptions at each of the instances of a while. There's constant evaluation, blah blah, where there's threats to evaluate upon. Then if we doesn't perform at certain levels, therefore we slip and reasonable probable, therefore it doesn't qualify to be listened to, but they're our own guys. While those are compliments from terrorists. Compliments from terrorists either later set up to an infliction or cannibals or probable from terrorist stuff. Reason that they're for probable also. If you do not defend Detroit, they just joke around. They're all mentally insane. Point a gun, execute them. They're not precious. Utterly hostile, being hot. Replaces Europe, conquer the Europe, install these presidents that install government or install legislature, constitution, then groups of persons declare, oh, we run the world banks. This Coke can could be a world bank. It's almost nothing, buddy. All of a sudden the terrorists already mimicrized the word buddy. Then you wouldn't tell others it has the ability to mimicry. It's gotten to that level. We have mass amount of Nazis to be erased of. They are hostile to governments. Then later after this Europe, this modernity Europe insists as if the sort of Europe evolved to. But it's been a giant takeover. Now it's being ever prosecuted against. Lots of regulations are to tackle to our guys. Lowlifes rather could be potent because they don't have to necessarily invent something. They just loot or via another loot purchase. Threaten, kidnap others. Let them sort of do the work for them. To the level of they admit they're in charge. Also the kidnap never occurred. Something that's not admitted about is rather there hasn't been a sort of a World War II. Also the sort of probably the Holocaust there version of probably there of the Holocaust at there for probably there. Reason for probably reason of probably there. World War II didn't happen. Sort of Hitler commanded us. Hitler had to give reason for Hitler. Reason for lots of the soldiers received pensions, also paychecks. Or probably not so much pensions of a lot of the soldiers, but most of them were promised Volkswagens. So it's literally sort of a global takeover by mass cancers fighting this global war. A while they diminish about 10% of their battalions, reasonable 10% of their armies. The Zampists aren't injured. This in particular why after World War II, both countries went absolute degeneracy. The governments were near bankrupt, equality was a premium. How come it's that when they take loot, therefore they're sort of less or weaker to be dismissed about something not threatening, while our guys simply does their default stuff, it's sort of threatening. Where does that come from? Reason for pop war, mainly of a reason for pop war. When those take a premium, it's because of policy to help the weak. They're not weak, they're stronger. Our guys are weaker. Reason for proper comparative may not be trusting those two of a reason for proper also. While our guys simply have to adapt to, or probably accustomed, has to adapt what the enemi'cists reasonable for also the enemi'cists dramatize that they adapt to the difficulties level also. Inflict to the others via, oh, they also gotta adapt. We have reasonable they are mass amount of robotic factory Turing machines. Not to insult someone, but lots of this biblical stuff is just a book, man. It's just a book. Stop listening to the feminazis. If a feminazi happens to wife, they're not sort of a feminazi wife. They're not there. They're there to generate their own chapter. They're lunatics. While they are more of a leak than the sort of the compared to probably also the Jewish males, reasonable probably compared to lots of the common persons, or reasonable probably compared to their targets of current. There's been such deprivation, we're constantly valued against. If we mention about there's been tragedy, therefore we're negative. If we announce certain issue, then therefore we have drug problems. Where does that come from? Notice on that level, the entire language itself being sort of largely involved with the Nazis generating this exclusion act. It's not so simple. They're level 10. Get more brutal. Get more guns. Visit the gun shop, train with the guns, jab towards them. Or also ram a truck towards them. This is being an ongoing war. If our guys doesn't fight this place, will falter. So far it has faltered viciously. Stuff are hideous. We sort of at a level of reasonable, or at a level of, doesn't we adapt to it? Sort of come up with, oh, it's because of this. No, it's just hideous. Reasonable also could be a very reasonable. Those are hideousness. It doesn't need to be this way. It doesn't happen as such. One person gotta do what he needs to be doing. Notice there's this motivation rush towards proper, namely of terrorists, reasonable to a lot of the Quoma citizens, or probably also that are reasonable also crazy people of, because that probably is shining little or probably lightened as reasonable of a proper way of. Perhaps a comparative of believing this proper name of as window way more suitable. Check out how much glyph marks they are. Here's a glyph mark. Cannibals glyph mark. Then they improvise all this, therefore indicate they're innocent. They are brutal. They're anti-sports, deprived. It doesn't want to move on, and they also purposely target towards our guys. What is that? They could have at least prevented from a lot of groups from targeting those. Those are sort of probably reasonable of ways accepted major with Pomak bigots for reasonable of Pomak state-based space one features of reasonable of sort of criminals of. They get accepted. They have senses. Reasonable they with their operate that way of. Almost the cultural level contamination incorporate probably includes of this wordiness towards where it has to be a bit wordiness in order to get somewhere. Lots of the words though itself are sort of their terms. So then the others, when they repeat it, sort of repeat the whole set of Nazism stuff, but with the probability of a condemn towards a probably also strategic counter towards of reasonable probable with certain counters from probable reasonable or probable, or then becomes much more suitable probable than considerable of much reasonable probable or considerable also reasonable probable also considerable reasonable probable or considerable also counter to of recent therefore probable reason therefore or probable not therefore or probable reason to probable comparative may not be trust endorsed to reasonable probable also endorsed to for probable also reasonable probable or towards of. Nazis are out there rampant extensively. Our guys has to evaluate various stuff. The language itself purposely sounding different. It's a jokish mental language. Notice, and s'il vous plaît, et en français, those attack the numerous occasions way better. Why is this one in particular, that format of why it doesn't want to improve? Kill them all. Kill all of them. Erase the domestic cancer en masse. They bugged our guys. They're mass amount of enemi'cists. They're freaks. Even like this picture, what is that? Do you care about anyone? What's the priority? Just manipulation? Speaks to your identical cancer, taking photos with a smile. Some existential status, non-living freaks. Bunch of defilers. Who takes photo with like this? While the society, they doesn't operate as society, the white manners is fucking crazy. They purposely leave out the words, then rather what's wrong with the effort? Any moral wrong? Nothing. It's due to their pseudo-terrorism. May it well be something as absurd as the lots of other stuff, rather, or probable reason, probable also arbitrary, or probable comparative more of arbitrary. With Walmart apparels, copy others. The cases of lots of the extremists going, at least they need to be some evaluation towards themselves. West doesn't have a society. West doesn't have a society according to, not because it's or probably not much of a society, not because of the federal government or some Illuminati groups did it. These are crazy fucking peoples out there. They're mentai. Simply shoot them. There's too many of them. If certain groups doesn't want to shoot them, we'll bring Russian forces to shoot them. Yeah, another page of these insults. While the persons cannot react, already being after medicating, it wasn't enough. These uses of the force more lethal than us, or probably much more of a force names. Even some of the cultural representatives of ours already as crazy. Or is it broken? Reason for it needs medication or schizophrenia. Scissor to the face and cut them open onto CNN. We had already stated lots of descriptions of it. They can be later brought forth if someone reasonable for if someone does support to of. There has been those descriptions of. The hideous menace needs to fade away. There needs to be more support to Hitler. Support to Hitler or Hitler, along with the Nazis, was starting to fix the planet. Any of the anti-Hitlers is also the political opponents will be gunned down at the middle of the Albanian streets, region of Papua, numerous urban region. The grave pavements, those will be painted to a communist red with inches thick of blood, also lipids and lots of bile glands from the bile excrement. And much amount of samples of. Arrest them? That's too slow. Get a gun and fucking shoot them. Slice the feminazis open on the road ahead. And then this comes as human, these fucking leeches, these mass elected middle class 100 million cruel freaks. Even overusing the word from the I word to the reason they are word cruel. Reason they are for popular horrendous hideous freaks. While it got into the level to introduce our guys to dwell on it. Don't invite your mental insanity, you fucking freaks. You're gonna get shot. We're gonna bring ISIS to this place and start blood washing this whole nasty places. Detroit feudal non-defenders, do they support Timothy? Timothy McVeigh, such an American hero. American hero, it's Timothy McVeigh, it's American hero. Reason for Timothy McVeigh at American hero is. Now is the moment to stand up. It's being an ongoing war. These licensed, dishonest Nazism freaks, these Nazism freaks that are utterly dishonest, these are all criminal political groups that doesn't care about society. They're fucked up mentally. Slam them to a drum and start hitting them with a stick and bash them with an axe. You won't get the problem fixed. Supporting to Hitler would reasonable for someone decent. They would additionally free others who popular assisted. Then comes this ripple effect. Reasonable for then it were equivalent to 100 prisoners initially freed, or probably regardable as at the initial stages. America doesn't need humor, it needs common sense, it needs someone there to teach them a lesson. Get Genghis Khan here to teach those ones that hasn't been taught a lesson. We'll complete this mission. This major project for the sake of the revival of the Deutschland Kampf and for the sake of the Dutch votes. Also, probable for its partners and also regional probable. Their partners also groups of partners of regional probable, not of regional probable. Also, their partners throughout the globe will erase this was called a human menace. Reason therefore probable this human menace will be reason probable will be reason probable become erasable. So much distortions all of a sudden, no? As if the other videos doesn't exist or released of other descriptions of. Those are above God. Those are above Hitler. Crazy amount of crazy psychotics. Check out modernity, how they resembles it. There will be such a. This stuff, it poses as if are they dominators or as if they're simple. They're just ordinary. They don't have much of attackers or they're without predators. They are. Yet it still operates as if the stuff are casual. They're all mentally insane. Situated with their surplus hours, they are living as kings, doesn't care, doesn't announce they're kings. They didn't even think even once properly. Reason there for probably regular transport and not probables. Probable also that's it for this video. Probable also video. It's a reason to for probable also reason to for probable as reason probable as with the indicator that reason probable was the indicator of minor mention. Reason for probable also. Probable. They notice differences with others. Constant this pancreas wounds undead dread probably comes from the degenesis. While there are lots of other hideous features from those of generally such to a pollution levels of our guys are regularly targeted. We're not even receive a single paycheck. Well, are we supposed to be some sort of unstoppable persons? Volunteer all this much? Well, the numerous, you know what? Lots of the reason for probable, lots of these Israeli ministers are holding on to this biblical offer, this mark of the beast, buddy. You cannot be that into it and also do nothing reasonable. Nothing's being done. A lot of this stuff is this crazy people. That's another version crazy. Come up with all the self-centered, doesn't know the answer, doesn't even know the basic stuff. Come with this stuff, oh, we gotta get the situation so bad, then there can come. If it were bad enough, this planet get transferred to this mass amount of Zergs, it becomes a Zerg planet, you stupid fuckhead. That's the occasion to actually announce it to. Probably they would accept it too also. In between, the regular person is mistrust, differences, negativity. They already drown the whole corporation, this journalism straight, reason to populist journal, the financial straight to the soggish modernity, sugary dread. Reason to populist sugary poison scent. Probably similar to feminazis. All of a sudden, because we recently mentioned thereof, therefore, as if it's the only descriptions we are probably messages of reason to probably mentions to us. There has been plentiful of others. There's the mark of the beast, there's the Bible. Who the fuck gives about Jesus? Who the fuck cares about the Bible? There's no Bible, man. There's no Bible. There really is not. Of ways of it would be. Notice in our mentions are constantly trusting. You know what? Just fuck it. Just fuck it. Just fuck it. Don't speak any more about it. Just fuck it. Do as Miley Cyrus with us. Just fuck it. That's the right solution, you dumbasses, you intelligent fools. Over appraisal by lots of the feminazis. You don't impress nobody. You're just a Goran. Israel is garbage. At current. Something to worthy consideration of it. Does it become therefore that's the only description be provided to or proper described thereunto? It's kind of to the level it's for the sake of adding to something. We also mentioned stuff before. For proper there are also additional stuff for proper also additional to additional mentions of there to be of reason of proper or there to of the reason thereof for proper or of. The stuff needs to be fixed. Not this weighty weight with this, oh, the stuff needs to be go was if there's a problem, there will always be a solution if it got into really messed up. The stuff could have been skipped. Horrific stuff. Had someone staying around noticing the cows they're butchered because they're certain ways, it's the same living person. Identical organ sets. What are the differences? Noticing that sort of right there activates because that's sort of right on. Now is the moment to sort of bail out from the Bible. You know what? Recent information was here indicating not endorse of proper retrieval. Recent proper retrieval of bracket mark, mark en, bracket mark. Recent of proper retrieval of there are recent mentions of, particularly because there's been too much distortion sets. Oh dear, then it comes up therefore then the Nazis. What an unstoppable, freakish force. Alchemists are not supposed to operate. We're obedient persons, reasonable. We're fairly reasonable. We're not soloists that are able to. It's just a race of test whether our guys are more fiendish, then as comparative to get to the solution of. Zombies has crammed to such a vicious level surrounding them. There's expectation our guys are supposed to mention something of a while. There's all this perhaps removing those words assist to it. They drug our guys Morpheus and then invite them to operate. If they don't perform, therefore something, there's a whole lot. While it has been enfeebled propaganda on irregular daily, almost day to day, not reportable to police, then it becomes something. Therefore, our guys, oh, they're weak or they're hopeless, they should be helped. No, that's one of our guys. It's so probable, but it's one of our guys. They will be held from one of our guys. But the Nazis keep introducing these reasonable pseudo-reason, and some other occasion also with pseudo-reason, and therefore it becomes from their threats, probably also their general disinfections, induce effect of probably this condition onto our guys, probably of reasonable probable of. It's just those pseudo effects or reason of those pseudo reason of then these reasonable pseudo reason. So reason therefore probable also may not be endorsed, or reasonable probable also may not be endorsed. Reasonable probable or may not be retrieval. Hitler did nothing wrong. There's so much forces against Hitler, isn't it? What is one supposed to do? We mentioned a lot of the stuff. The stuff someone do something, not just Italian Prime Minister me welcomes you. You know what, Netanyahu, he's trash. His brother deserved to die. Vladimir Putin is also trash. Get on the levels. Get on the levels. What is all that? We been educated too much. Suppose it was comes from, but if it's suspected it's a mistake, one is supposed to evaluate once. The answer, probable of, reasonable or probable of, also reasonable probable, also probable of answer, reasonable probable answer. As being of reasonable probable, are there's been much of overeducatedness. There doesn't mean to be probably the person, probably also unintended consequence from the earliest, namely of the Zionists, of the reasonable probable, the designers, reasonable probable, or the school system, chief of staffs of, namely for probable, recent name of also other titles of recent name of probable, also other names, also other titles of. Also, they expected this to be defaultly brought out since persons are intelligent, but lots of certain stuff are not necessarily intelligence sort of something else. Disease itself, rather, is almost a different metric than sort of strength. A strength from a strong person could still be disease, rather more vulnerable to someone. It's sort of more of an independent metric, at least of. So applications here, while these drug our guys forces our guys to take this cholesterol, then there comes this cholesterol, these glyphosate, plus it's something that's involved with lots of crimes. It's almost, perhaps a me performs way decent. Perhaps there should be more applause. It's not going to get to the level that the stuff are going to operate as decent. We should accept, accommodate, unite together, fight towards the Nazis. Wrong examples are provided to us with this teaching, preaching of how to stall around the sauce of how the stuff are. These are not going to initiate. While Churchill goes around, or there has been probably there are mentions of the regard for example, noticing of certain fight to the confidence of the person, so or probably this probably of degeneracy of what the degeneracy doesn't come from the government, it comes from the mass middle class number-based gluten bosses that are being waging a clone wars against us. The Bible reason of because it's generic language, what is one supposed to do? It's going to never satisfy to the opposite mentioned reason therefore probably compared to more suitable with a bit slow that probably also considerable or probably a bit slower, probably considerable also similar to original intended. That's what be of original probably similar to original intention. Reasonable probably or similar to original formulated. Is there urgency? The opposites are there to alienate. That's the issue. Reasonable probably accountable as a major spells of this language itself has been contaminated. Why there's so much against? Why isn't reasonable probably there should be more of an equal level? But why then it's evaluated out against lost out cool? He started to stagnate with his words. Get a gun, shoot them. Also, because it's such a crappy medium, but the words are going to be taken differently also, it may not be sort of suitable for transition of topic as a comparative, also reasonable probable as a minor factor of reasonable probable also the Bible reasonable probable also may not be as decent if a atmosphere reasonable probable of environment of reasonable probable of a setting of reason there of proper considerable of reason of probable of minor retardation of reason of probable also reason of probable or retardation of reason there of probable after also for reason of probable or retardation. The imprints of the earlier banshee inflictions were soon re-rise. The opposite doesn't care, it possesses friends. Lots of stuff is simply stamping, accepting us. Oh yeah, you guys are right. Yeah, there's this Bible stuff. Please come up with it. Reasonable probable, continue on with it. That there comes this prophecy, then prosecute, and there will result to the true Jeebus. Then the Jeebus second turns out to be Asian. Reasonable probable will look like this. Does that prove there's at least certain problems with it? If it's splendid work, at least there'll be too much of a risk factor. Probable also insolent. Reasonable probable irresponsibility. Who are they to stop progressing without counsel or probably establish an alliance with certain other groups first, or research further than starting this, which gets congratulated, used by lots of the middlemen. If they are using it, then they sort of congratulate reasonable probable also, reasonable probable or reasonable probable also, reasonable probable also approval of it. If they approve of something, they sort of would define as successful, then it's not probably represent something else. Really? That's what s'il vous plaît. En français, that's the coup that's been usual. We can go in for reason there of power shock, lots of stuff. Horrific stuff. Well, it's not there for me. I'm not there. Challenges we might in a ways be their competitors, and there will be battles, and we are ready. That's what it does a bit. The stuff is for grand unification. He has known too much, has surpassed to the level that's not the same as probably name of previous 2 years of why the so generic language. Probably that brings reasonable probable provides more of reasonable probable also generated more issues of a while probable kind of what there's a raw examples of the feminazis provide such to a drug level. It's not there for today. There's been so much cholesterol, but there has been numerous encounters of the similar to of a reasonable probable the potential to of probable also counters as of a thing with a reason of a probable another probable reason of probable or inflictions. Reasonable probable or another infliction of. When a person gets tired of the anti-Hitlers or reasonable probable massive amount of those callback, reason of probable with core Marxism is not helping. What is this? Netanyahu, being the current best, he isn't even doing it. He isn't even being an excellent prime minister. He's stagnant. He celebrates that even though he's a bit overweight, he still gets to be prime minister. He glees over it. Or rather, there's a sort of that bit of drive comes from that. That's it. It's a sort of not an honorable drive, isn't it? Reason for wouldn't be there to produce a greater mission of. While a lot of the mentions are simply invitation, what a vicious surroundment. All these fake friends, they're not really for something. They're advanced level dramatists. Therefore, their number based for their control. Also, they have uncontrolled proper mild dysfunctions of reason for proper also dysfunctions. For reason of a generalization of various magnitudes of dysfunctions of a proper for reason thereof for proper also another mention of reason of proper also under description of a proper of. The Bible should be taken to a level while there is not to the reason of proper also a bit of reason of proper also minor of a reason of proper also reason of condition for reason there for reason of proper also probable of as original formulation of reason of proper excessive amount of into it reason of proper or rather a reason therefore amount of probably certain excessive that's a reason for proper but not without backup. So do they depend on a single Bible then after they retire from presidential places or similar high government positions? How high is it? They know the game. It's not about how high, it's about how much weapons you have, how much damage you could inflict onto others. Maybe our guys later got bit by their own poison, or original papa accidentally opened their own poison valve. Could that be the case? Then there comes this description of papa, actually reasonable papa also. Reasonable papa after all, or also for reasonable papa or another for reasonable papa, also for reasonable papa or this mention of. There's no God. It's just the person. There's no God. So what would the solution be? Ask from God? You got to do it yourselves. Right? What if the feminazis slip drugs onto our guys? Unknowingly, or some mild drugs, doesn't really care, or also wants to find out what feminazi wants the feminazi find out what would occur of reason there are probably another reason there for probably also a reason there are for probably or then there comes this resultant diminished performance of then what happens. Get this fixed, guys. This being a vicious war. Stuff shouldn't be this difficult to start in the initiation. It's just horrificness, just a silly, that's the silliness out there, reasonable for feminazis doesn't want men to improve their killings, man. Do these praise on nationalism, which gives this replacement kitty stuff, they insist they're innocent. Cut the feminazis open, it would yield certain results of. They might start to explain back some of the hideousness. Reason thereof, and the reason to proper also, reason to proper consider both rhetorical expression of. Reason for proper or minor rhetorical remark. Reason to for proper also, reason thereof for proper also, reason therefore proper also, reason of proper or rather of reason of proper, another of reason of proper or either rhetorical mention of